Thank you very much for joining us for another exciting edition of the Lunchtime Cafe on Camnet TV. My name is Marco Kwakoze. This is a program that comes to you every Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays at exactly 12 hours. We bring to you nothing but what is happening around us in this beautiful country of Zambia. We also take you back into memory just to remind you of what used to happen some years back, as we try to bring stories we call for the forgotten stories. So the program is fully packed this afternoon. Remember, you are catching us live on channel 274 on DSTV, channel 25 on GoTV, and channel 106 on Top Star. Those are the channels you can catch us on. But also remember that we are live on our Facebook page, which is Camnet TV. So go to that particular page, like it and share it, and then go to the to this particular broadcast, and you can leave your comments there. We would love to see what you think about what we are looking at this beautiful afternoon. This is the 31st of August 2023, the last day in the month of August, and also the deadline for those transfers, the transfer window. If you are a football fan, of course you know that this is a period when footballers make moves from one club to another, be it permanent deals or loan deals. This is the period that it is done. Now today is the last day. There are a lot of expectations, things to happen on this last day, because usually this is the day that most teams keep the best for last. They sign huge players at the very end of the transfer window. But before we come to issues to do with sports, why don't we start with the first segment? And this particular segment takes us through some of the stories that are making the headlines, some of the stories that are happening right now. Our reporters are in the field and they are giving us a heads up on what they are working on, stories that we expect to see this evening at 19:30 during our main news bulletin. So we are going to be going straight into that shortly after this break. Thank you very much. Welcome back. This is the Emerging Stories segment. We tell you stories that are happening right now because our reporters are on the ground and they are giving us a heads up on what they are working on. The first story comes from the courts, and it says the case in which Opposition Socialist Party President Fred Membe is facing one count of communicating certain information likely to breach the country's security has failed to take off. Now, this is after Lusaka Principal Resident Magistrate Sylvia Munyinya informed the defense team comprising Simon Mwila and Leon Lemba that the case has not been a cause listed before the courts. But speaking shortly after the opposition leader appeared before the Lusaka Magistrates Court for allocation of the case, Dr. Membe says the court was wasting everybody's time. Let's have a look at this.
Council, what's your next step?
We are proceeding to police headquarters and see the police officers that effected an arrest on our client. Though we wish to express our displeasure at the manner in which they are behaving, because our client was arrested on the 9th of August and given this day. He's ready and we're ready to proceed as his legal team. So they didn't even have the courtesy to even come and inform the court what is happening, leaving us in the blind and in the dark. It's unfortunate. So this is the second time they're doing it on two offenses which he was arrested on. Our client was detained, spent a night in those court cells. Why did they effect an arrest if they're not ready to proceed? So we will be proceeding to force headquarters and see and understand why they have brought our client here and are not ready. They are not here.
have not explained why they are not here. It needs an explanation. That's why I was locked up in cells. They had done their investigations. They said they were ready, but they are nowhere. They are wasting everybody's time. Why arrest a person when you're not ready to prosecute a matter? These are the questions they should answer. They are abusing the criminal justice system. They arrested us, detained us, but they are not here. They can't come to court.
Yeah.
This is the second time they are not coming to court.
Yeah.
Why charge somebody, arrest somebody when you are not ready to prosecute that person?
Dictatorship.
We have said the exercise of power must be a constant practice of self-limitation and modesty. And they should learn that.
So that is a story that Nelson Zulu is working on, and we do expect the details of that particular story exactly 19:30 this evening during our main news. Now, moving on, the Federation of Free Trade Unions has applauded the New Dawn government for continued industrial peace and harmony in the operations of the labor movement in the country. Now, speaking at a media briefing in Lusaka this morning, FFTUZ President Tingati Musiska also praised the New Dawn government for restoring sanity in the Central Business District. He says the Federation acknowledges the efforts being made by government in responding to a number of issues economically, politically, and socially. Let's have a look at this.
The Federation of Free Trade Unions of Zambia salute the leadership being provided by the New Dawn government under the leadership, of course, of His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. The Federation is happy with the New Dawn government in that there is industrial peace and harmony in the operations of the labor movement in our country. We therefore wish to applaud the government for the achievement they have scored in the threshold of CDF to facilitate local developmental projects. Number 4, installation of investor confidence. Sanity in Central Business District in most of our part of our country. Social dialogue or open door policy among stakeholders and political players. Reduced capitalism, continuation of the fight against corruption, among others. Developmental agenda being actualized, e.g. building of the most and long-awaited Lusaka Ndola Dual Carriageway. The Federation acknowledges the effort being made by the government in responding to a number of issues, politically, socially, as well as economically, which of course are affecting our nation. However, the Federation is saddened by the continued economic hardship and the high cost of living during the period under review. In most cases, the condition of service for the worker has either been slightly adjusted or not at all, while the cost of essential commodities continue to.
That is another story there that we expect to see this evening at exactly 19:30 during our main news, and it is from the FFTUZ, the Federation for Free Trade Unions of Zambia. Now, moving on, the consortium of civil society organizations championing the revamping of the mining industry has insisted that President Hakainde Hichilema should quickly revamp the mining sector in order to create the much-needed jobs on the copper belt. The consortium has also taken a swipe at stakeholders who are against the return of vendetta resources at Konkola copper mines, saying they don't mean well. Now, consortium member Ronnie Jere, who is also Zambia for Unity, Peace and Development president, says the stakeholders against this move are not sincere with Zambians. Mr. Jere is also worried at the continued delay to address challenges at KCM and Mopani mines, saying this is affecting a lot of things.
The delay in concluding the negotiations of KCM and Mopani is a source of worry. This is because, one, our kwacha is depreciating at a very fast rate. Two, our contractors and suppliers have not been paid their dues for over 4 years now. They need that money. They need their monies. And so the more this government delays in revamping the KCM and Mopani, the more we are inflicting pain on these suppliers and contractors. Three, we have a high rate of unemployment in the copper belt and all over Zambia. And we know that the mines are also private companies that can help to create employment for those that cannot find employment in government. And so the delay of reopening these two mines is creating a vacuum in terms of employment. We ask the president to intervene in this situation so that people can get their employment, suppliers and contractors can be able to get their monies, but also our kwacha, because we'll be exporting more and getting enough US dollars. What will happen is our kwacha will stabilize. We also want to condemn, or rather to take a swipe on all those that are condemning the coming back of Vedanta. We say these people are not sincere with themselves and they are not sincere with Zambians. We know that government has navigated other alternatives to see how they can be able to sort out this issue of, revamping KCM with other investors. And it has been established that there is no way KCM can run without the involvement of Vedanta, because Vedanta are the legal owners. So all those that are saying that the coming back of Vedanta is the wrong move just want this government to fail. And we want to ask this government to make sure that they close their ears to all those naysayers, and especially that these voices are coming from small political parties. They shouldn't be entertained. We as a consortium know that government is trying all it can to make sure that these mines are revamped, but I think it has taken too long. And last week we petitioned the head of state to intervene into this matter, because people are hungry, people want jobs, suppliers want to be given their monies, and we are told that 250 million US dollars has been set aside to pay all.
Thank you very much. That is about the civil society organizations that are calling for the mining sector to be revamped by way of opening the KCM and of course Mopani copper mines on the copper belt, so that production can go high and create a lot more of employment opportunities to the people on the copper belt. Let's move on. The next story says the Drug Enforcement Commission, through its anti-money laundering unit, has arrested a businessman for fraud and money laundering. Now, Richard Mutera, 41, has been charged with forgery and uttering false documents contrary to Section 342 and 352, respectively, of the Penal Code, Cap 87 of the laws of Zambia. Possession of property suspected to be proceeds of crime, contrary to Section 71 of the Forfeiture of Proceeds of Crime Act number 19 of 2010, unauthorized access to data contrary to Section 49 of the Cyber Security and Cyber Crimes Act number 2 of 2021, and money laundering contrary to Section 7 of the Prohibited and Prevention of Money Laundering Act number 14 of 2001, as amended by Act number 44 of 2010. Now, particulars of the offence are that Mutela jointly, whilst acting with together with other unknown persons on dates unknown, but between the 1st of January 2023 and the 24th of August 2023, forged 25 green national registration cards, some of which are in the names of suspected nationals, foreign nationals rather. Mutela used one of the forged NRCs in the name of Moses Piri to open an account at a non-commercial bank and started transacting. This account has since been frozen with a balance of 198,000 kwacha 20 ngwe. He further gained access to various ATM cards for some commercial banks without authorization from the banks or the owners of the cards. Now, Mutela also engaged in money laundering involving proceeds of crime. At the time of arrest, Mutela was found with 25 NRCs, 20 ATM cards for various commercial banks and cash amounting to 130,290 and 1,000 United States dollars. Now, these have been seized together with a Toyota Vitz registration number BAZ 2644. Now, Mutela is on bond and will appear in court soon. Let's have a look at this.
The Drug Enforcement Commission, through its anti-money laundering investigations unit, has arrested a businessman for fraud and money laundering. Richard Mutela, age 41, has been charged with forgery and uttering false documents, contrary to sections 342 and 352 respectively of the Penal Code, Cap 87 of the laws of Zambia. Possession of property suspected of being proceeds of crime, contrary to section 71 of the Forfeiture of Proceeds of Crime Act number 19 of 2010. Unauthorized access to data, contrary to section 49 of the Cybersecurity and Cybercrimes Act number 2 of 2021, and money laundering, contrary to section 7 of the Prohibition and Prevention of Money Laundering Act number 14 of 2001, as amended by Act number 44 of 2010. Now, this gentleman by the name of Richard Mutela is alleged to have forged these national registration cards, these green national registration cards that are here. So particulars of the offences are that Mutela, jointly and whilst acting together with others unknown, on dates unknown but between 1st January 2023 and 24th August 2023, forged 25 green national registration cards. These are the national registration cards that are here, and we want the people of Zambia to be aware of this so that certain measures can be taken to this effect. So he forged 25 green national registration cards, some of which are in the names of suspected foreign nationals. Mutela used one of these forged NRCs in the name of Moses Piri to open an account at a non-commercial bank, and he started transacting. Now, this account has been frozen by the Commission, and it had a balance of 198,020 kwacha. He further gained access to various ATM cards, which are these. These ATM cards are from various commercial banks. These were found in his possession. So he gained access to various ATM cards for some commercial banks without authorization from the banks or from the holders of these cards, which are the clients. Mutela also engaged in money laundering involving proceeds of crime. At the time of arrest, as I earlier mentioned, he was found with these NRCs. The ATM cards are 20. He was found with 20 ATM cards and cash amounting to 130,290 kwacha and US dollars 1,000. These articles, the NRCs, the cards, the cash have been seized together with a motor vehicle, which is a Toyota Vitz registration number BAZ 2644.
That is another story that we expect to see tonight at 19:30 during our main news. It's coming from the Drug Enforcement Commission. They are giving an update as regards that development from the money laundering investigating unit. So on that note, we come to the end of this particular segment where we give you stories as they happen. You might be aware that our reporters are currently on the ground and are sending stories to us, and those are the stories, some of the stories that they are working on, and you expect the details of these particular stories at exactly 19:30 this beautiful evening. Now, moving on, we get into another segment. Now, this segment is about giving you stories that were happening some few years back, just to remind you of where we are coming from and refreshing your memories. But before we do that, let me remind you that you can go to our Facebook page and leave your comments on this particular broadcast. We'll be more than happy to see what you think about what we are looking at this particular afternoon. Or later on, we are going to be opening the phone lines. The numbers will be given to you, which you can call and give us your thought on some of the issues that we are looking at this beautiful afternoon, so that we get interactive. But before we get to the phone calls, let's quickly look at some of the stories that were happening a few years back, just to refresh your memories. And we start from the year 2020, 2021, and of course 2022, just to remind you of what was happening those days on this particular day, the 30th of August, the 31st rather of August 2020, 2021 and 2022. What did happen? Let's have a look at this.
The Kasensel gold mine in Mwinunga district of Northwestern Province has been a source of conflict since 2019 when gold was discovered. Lives were lost as police killed some citizens when they engaged in running battles with the community who wanted to have a share of the mineral resource at all cost. The Zambian government then called for sanity at the mine by deploying police officers at the mine, and in April of this year, the same government appointed the Zambia Consolidated Copper Mines Investment Holdings, ZCCM-IH Gold, to oversee smooth operations of the mine. On the 27th of April 2020, ZCCM injected approximately 45 million kwacha for the initial phase 1 of the Kasensel gold mine project in Mwenilunga. ZCCM then informed the nation that once operations start, the nation will be fully briefed. However, Mwenilunga Member of Parliament Newton Samakai, who made an impromptu visit at the mine, learned that ZCCM has already started full-scale mining, contrary to their position that they are only conducting exploration works. Mr. Samakai tells Camnet TV News that ZCCM officials confirmed to him about the development when he held a meeting with them. This reporter wants to put it on record that he has already sent a press query to ZCCM-IH Gold over these allegations. Mr. Samakai has also held meetings with the community in Kasenseli who feel robbed of their mineral resource.
Nukufa nukuhanda kudo. Muna nukamfari chanzanga nshita government na watu. Muna ichuna kudira chikunu. Amuhera government adiko. Airumba adiko akaleta nshita. Akaleta nshita. Chuma charumba amfari ka chimene nchakora HD heta tunaruki here dina inzambo kutufundishira. Hinkisu yetu. Hitula kwere di heta kuya wanyi. Hela kudautu yikwiya yankisu wanyi. Tunerukina chine goshera wama wanyi. Tunerukina kampenyi di kane jirwao. Hima kombi. Hiya kweti mari kumuchimbanga. Dela fumana temkira ka sensari akwati yuma kulonde yikwelo. Awe makombi wanyi. Awe makombi.
Tukosha kwa net soka kujinda wanyi. Ne yitenot. Rungu ne di walki ne mweni chunga din. Ni no want di mweni rung. Cherki net amwani ya mweni. Chikona. Tuna kudisenda ni nyane ya nyanya. Ama babe. Konda katwisha hirikuna.
Songs of displeasure have been composed depicting the cries of the people. But Mr. Samakai promises his people to do his best in protecting their interests.
Nina kuya kudi minister wa mines. Nina kuya no kuya motion mu parliament na michinga awa ase ndo marunga manene. Na ukulonda yalirenga mu explore. Ayikehe shana ana marunga muka wa yitambure afuntu kudancho kulonda akera kula. Oh, ude muwami dichisenda chami. Chinasenda kusmaro shitwa shanga. Biyuma ine ngerukono namukulonda nirumbu.
Kalan Muchima reporting for Camnet News.
Libonda Secondary School is the only high school in Liuwa constituency of Kalabo district. The school has a lot of historical significance to the people of Western Province, as most of the prominent people like former Speaker of the National Assembly, Musa Mwanamwambwa, Liuwa Member of Parliament, Situmbeko Msokotwane, and many others went to this school. The school, which was upgraded to a secondary school in 2010 during Rupiah Banda's government, was left unfinished following the change of government in 2011, hence leaving the school only 70% completed.
And all these things that you see, this was work done under the MMG government. Very advanced. But from 2011, when the PF took over, not a single brick has been added to this structure. Not a single iron sheet has been added here. Absolutely nothing. And if you go in that hall, you can see that certain parts, wild grass is growing. Now, I've appealed to the government so many times, almost every month, that this school needs to be completed. But somehow, the government just never seemed to understand that an investment like this one going to waste is a waste for the national economy.
So our appeal to government is that they should not forsake us or leave us behind. This structure should be completed so that our children will have access to quality education.
Former Minister of General Education, David Mabumba, visited the school and promised to release funding for completion. This was the promise that has not yet been fulfilled on many other schools countrywide that are being upgraded to secondary school level. Lubonda Ward Councillor Musialela wonders why government has chosen to prioritize the purchase of military trucks over boosting the education sector.
We have a good number of schools in the country which are at different levels of completion. Others at 80%, 70%, 60%. And so what government did was to identify these categories of schools, and money has been sent to a good number of these schools, and some of them are now completed. Okay, some of them we have opened them partially in order to allow access to secondary education. And as I speak, there is a budget that is going on right now where the resources are being released to those schools we are talking about, so that they can accomplish the structures that have remained at a particular level.
According to his observation, pupils who proceed to grade 8 have to cover long distances, about 130 kilometers, just to access secondary schools in Kalabo district, leaving the closest one, which has remained uncompleted. Reporting for Camnet Television in Lusaka, Zambia, Namwenga Mwenga.
Agriculture remains the key priority sector in the growth and poverty reduction agenda of Zambia. Over 60% of the population derives its livelihood from agriculture. In recent years, agriculture has not performed well on account of limited funding and continued focus on the political crop which is maize. During the 2020-2021 farming season, the Food Reserve Agency pegged the maize price at 150 kwacha per 50 kilogram bag, a gesture that excited many farmers. However, concerns have emerged in the eastern part of Zambia, Lundazi to be specific. Some farmers selling their maize produce to FRA have been left stranded as the agency runs out of packaging bags. Some farmers have been at the depot for weeks and are now calling on the government to address the situation as preservation issues come into the picture.
Kwenye kuno kulisanga kutaka masaka challenge masaka ndio kulije masaka alimara so no tulinzika masaka kuti ndio rais ya bara masaka mpima ngani mzeni ngoma vunyake vesi ngagulisa kwa 5 August kwenye mpaka kugilio kwa pesa 1 ndrama zikatoleka ndiki tukasanga challenge kutaka ndrama zikulije kujidani so iwa kuma ofisi wako ya pombo kuma ofisi ya kutaka dango ikavipi kale maromati kongo kumba kutinga balance makopa kijijani madepo yake wakatoranga chandra mtoko kumba kuti chose tizingane tsareya chose pandrama ziliza zande kucheka pamoja madepo wakatoka.
On this subject, FRA was not available for a comment, but in a related development, the agency confirmed meeting its purchasing target in this year's marketing season.
The Food Reserve Agency has purchased a total of 534,333.30 metric tons of grade A white maize during this year's ongoing crop marketing season. This is equivalent to a total of 10,686,666 by 50 kg bags of white maize worth 1,602,999,900 kwacha, out of which 1,211,521,500 kwacha has already been paid out to small-scale farmers that delivered their maize to FRA depots.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
During the tenure of the Patriotic Front PF in government, reports of unruly cadres were high, with some allegations that they had become even more powerful than the police. Images of these cadres clad in military regalia were widely shared on media platforms, and they gave themselves titles such as commander. Citizens dreaded crossing paths with these self-proclaimed commanders as they were perceived as violent. The 2021 general elections, however, turned the tables as the PF, popularly known as the Greens, lost to the United Party for National Development UPND, popularly known as the Reds. In a sudden turn of events, PF supporters are allegedly being beaten and their houses destroyed by alleged party cadres in suspected acts of revenge. Video footage shared by the PF shows that the house of one of the PF members has been damaged Tuesday morning by suspected cadres of a named party. Foundation for Democratic Process FODEP Executive Director George Chimembe, however, says whether cadres or ordinary citizens, such acts should be condemned as they act as a threat to democracy.
I think what these people want to do is, to repeat what the PF did to the MMD shortly after, they had won in 2016, I think, even 2011. But this is something that shouldn't become part of our culture, especially that we are pronouncing ourselves to be multi-party democracy. And in multi-partyism, we need to allow coexistence, in terms of political parties. And what should be at stake are ideas. It is ideas that we need to compete with.
He has further called on police to quickly act on perpetrators and restore sanity in the country.
And so we just want to call upon the Zambia Police Service, especially the incoming IG. I think this is a task before him. The immediate task before him is for him to, arrest the perpetrators of this violence.
The FODEP Executive Director asked that there is need to create a culture of political tolerance in the country. Zipora Mushala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Following a number of cases and complaints from workers on the poor working conditions in the private sector, stakeholders have added a voice to call for a tightened implementation of the labor laws by authorities. Just recently, a named company was reported to allegedly feeding its workers food with maggots, among other poor conditions. In reaction to that, the Federation of Free Trade Union President Mrs. Kachingati has expressed disappointment over a number of inhuman treatments of workers, especially in the private sector.
That are happening everywhere. You know, we have heard recently of people being forced to eat food with maggot, which are rotten. I think that is not the Zambia that we want. We want a country where workers are free, workers are able to air out their grievances. And this is a serious grievance. And these are grievances that the government should take keen interest, where if we have poor conditions from these so-called investors, these should be reported to the right stakeholders, right ministries, these ministers of labor, like we have already stated, you know, who are able to look at this day out. You know, a working place should be a very good place. It shouldn't be a place where you feel intimidated, you feel you know, you are pushed to do something because which you wouldn't want to do. We should be free to work in a pure and good environment.
He further adds that the Ministry of Labour and Social Security should ensure that such vices are curbed.
Where, despite the engagement that we have had with the line ministry, Ministry of Labour and Social Security, as regard to the implementations of these laws, we have discovered at last that, you know, it's one thing to have laws, but it's another issue to have them implemented. And this is why, to us, we feel the implementation aspect should be looked at so seriously, so that we are able to ascertain and also to adhere to what is provided within the law. The laws of the land in terms of the Industrial and the Labor Relations Act, the Employment Code, and all those are very clear and explicitly so. They are able to explain what happens at any given time. But you know, the implementation aspect has been really not as to our desired levels. This is why we are saying the new government should be able to look into this. Let us have the laws implemented. If there is any abrogation in the implementation of this law, then there are be measures that are going to be put in place.
It is a concern a number of Zambian people continues to endure inhuman treatments at their working places or in the name of raising something for their families. One can only hope that the new government will swiftly address such lawlessness. Alex Shimba, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Access to justice has remained a challenge in the country, and the Human Rights Commission has expressed concern that the trend has continued, thus undermining Zambia's human rights record. Issues pertaining to prolonged detention before trial remain unattended to, and the former Patriotic Front Deputy Secretary General Mombipiri continues to be the example of this injustice. After spending half a year in a correctional facility without trial, Ms. Piri is scheduled to appear in court on October 3, 2022. And speaking during a press conference in Lusaka Wednesday, Human Rights Commission Chairperson Madford Mwandenga says through their inspections, it was observed that various detention and correctional facilities in all the 10 provinces have challenges to access justice.
Law enforcement agents are urged to stop the practice of arresting and detaining suspects for purposes of undertaking investigations, because it is unlawful and a violation of the right to liberty and other human rights. Further, the Commission wishes to advise that the movement of dockets between the respective law enforcement agents and the National Prosecution Authority, which is the NPA, as well as granting of consent to prosecute, must be improved and expedited. One of the reasons given to the Commission for delayed prosecution of some cases is lack of thorough and complete investigations by some law enforcement agencies.
Mr. Mwandenga since proposed that all cases, including murder, must become bondable and bailable in order to avoid prolonged detention of suspects.
As a long-term measure, The Commission proposes to make all cases bailable so that the respective courts of law will make their own discretions to either grant or deny bail based on the merits of each case. The mandatory proscribed bonds and bail for capital offences of murder, treason, and aggravated robbery is susceptible to abuse and contributes to gross violation of a wide range of human rights through prolonged detention without trial.
The Commission also called on the judiciary to improve on justice delivery in the country.
Police presence Wednesday graced the Anti-Corruption Commission premises where former Lusaka Province Minister Bowman Lusambo and former Foreign Affairs Minister John Malanje were appearing before the Commission for questioning. And the Anti-Corruption Commission later arrested and charged former Lusaka Province Minister Bowman Lusambo for electoral corruption. SCC Public Relations Manager Timothy Mono says Mr. Lusambo was arrested and charged with 4 counts of bribery, contrary to Section 81 of the Electoral Process Act No. 35 of 2016. The offences were committed between 1st April 2021 and 14th August 2021 in Ndola during the August 2021 general election campaign period.
In the first count, Lusambo, being a private person, namely an aspiring candidate for Kabushi constituency under the Patriotic Front ticket, jointly and whilst acting together with other persons unknown, corruptly offered 500 kwacha and actually gave 50 kwacha each to some United Party for National Development supporters and actually promised 500 kwacha each, 2.5 liters of cooking oil and a bag of midday meal after the elections. In the second count, Lusambo has been arrested and charged for corruptly giving 1,300 kwacha to youths in Lubuto West to share. In the third count, Lusambo has been arrested and charged for corruptly giving 4,000 kwacha to youths from Kabushi Ward to share. In the fourth count, Lusambo has been arrested and charged for corruptly giving 300 kwacha each to some women of St. Kizito Catholic Church after attending Mass before the elections.
Meanwhile, the interrogation of John Malanje took more than 8 hours and the Commission has not yet disclosed the reason why Mr. Malanje was summoned before the Commission. However, an inside source told this reporter that Mr. Malanje was arrested and later released after meeting the bond condition. And speaking shortly after their release, lawyer to the 2 accused former ministers Makebi Zulu could not disclose the reason why his client was arrested but asked the journalist to find out from the Commission.
So what they require, it's not rocket science as to what the issue is about as at now. But we'll wait and see.
And efforts to get a comment from SCC Public Relations Officer Timothy Mono over the arrest of Mr. Malanje proved futile by broadcast time. However, this reporter will continue to follow the matter to its logical conclusion. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Thank you very much. So those are some of the stories that we thought we could refresh your minds on. They happened from the year 2020 and of course up to 2022. We just selected some that happened on the 30th of August on those particular years. So just to remind you of where we have come from. Now, at this point, we come to the end of today's Lunchtime Cafe. Don't forget to join us again on Monday as we bring to you another exciting program. On behalf of the entire production team, have a blessed afternoon.